Welcome to Just Break Up, the podcast about love, heartbreak, and all the relationship advice you don't want to hear. My name is Sierra DeMulder.
And I'm Sam Blackwell.
And I'm Spencer Wirth-Davis. Is that how we're doing this? Okay.
That's how it goes.
Nailed it.
That's how it goes.
That's how we're doing
That's right.
it. Yep.
And today we're taking a look back at the last 4 years of Just Break Up with another Where Are They Now episode.
Yay.
Yeah.
Surprise bonus episode for our birthday.
Yay. It's our 4-year birthday on July 16th. And we also just published our 200th episode this past Monday. So here we are. We're going to take a look back at the last 4 years and listen to some listener call-in voicemails. Call-in voicemails from one from each of the 4 years. Spencer was supposed to explain this.
We're going to get some updates from letter writers of years past. And so I've got one from each of the 4 years that we've been doing Just Break Up. And then we have some voicemail updates from those folks. There are 3 of these. You've probably heard them. We don't need to explain the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay.
It's going to be like the other ones.
Let's get into it.
Okay. Are we doing a check-in or anything? Am I talking about turning 4?
I'd like to check in about the fact that letters from letter writers in years past, or whatever you said, sounded very much like we were in like a Christmas tale,
A Christmas Carol.
And these are
the ghost of letter writers past.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
We could check in about how we feel about 4 years.
We're turning 5,
How do you
right?
feel about it?
Me? Oh, fine. Good. It's gotten better every year, so that seems positive.
Totally.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Let's
people are still
interview
listening.
Spencer. Yeah. So what was it like when you were like, I know that when I brought the podcast to you 4 years ago and I was like, hey, my friend and I want to make this podcast. You were like, yeah, cool, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. A, what were you thinking? And B, follow-up question.
Why did you let us do this, Spencer?
What on earth were you thinking by agreeing to this?
Follow-up question. What did you think after I remember Sam and I sat down, we recorded the first three episodes in a go. Because that was back when we were young with stamina.
We were just so excited.
We were just so thrilled. And what did you? So the follow up question is, what did you think after you heard our first 3 letters, or answers, questions, episodes?
This is going to be fun.
This is going to be great. This is going to be great.
Just how many questions were in that question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you know what you're supposed to
saying the
answer?
wrong word?
I'm not sure we got to 1, to be honest.
Okay, no. Question number A, what were you thinking?
Number A. I was thinking that my approach is usually just to say yes to things if it's people that I want to do things with, and then we'll figure it out later.
Yeah, literally, I don't think there was any strategy or logistics. You were like, yeah, cool, let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, it was more of Sierra has a project and it sounds like there's a solid idea. Well, let's find out if it's a solid idea or not.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then question number B was, what were your feelings? Yep. Nope. I was just maintaining consistency. What were you thinking after we recorded those first 3 episodes?
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I don't know. It is a bigger challenge than when I first started doing podcasts. It was a much bigger challenge than I realized initially to just talk semi-coherently for an hour.
Sure.
Yeah.
About something that's hopefully interesting to at least a significant group of people or a significant number of people. And you guys had that right away, which makes everything a whole lot easier.
Yeah, we just talk way too much.
Honestly, yes.
Yeah, filling time has never been an issue. So that was a couple of those first episodes when we were doing 4 letters especially were.
Oh my God. But they were still 50 minutes for some reason. In my mind, how did we answer 4 letters in the past? Were we just break up with them, bye? That's what it
kind of
feels like. I think so, a little bit. That's kind of what we did.
Yeah. Well, let's find out, actually. Are we starting with the most recent year? Or are we going back in time or starting,
Starting from the beginning.
Never mind.
year 1,
Perfect.
year 2, 3, 4.
Thank you.
It's a very good place to start.
I'm struggling today.
So we have, we're going back to episode 39. This is Your Heart on Heartbreak, which originally ran on.
Great episode title.
Thank you.
I think that was a Sierra quote, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, like your heart on drugs.
Yep.
Right.
Smashing it with
It
the
originally
frying
ran
pan.
on April 14th of 2019. And Amalia wrote in about how she had had lots of wonderful relationships with men, but none of them romantic. And a lot of men, or some of her male friends, had told her that they would date her if only they were attracted to her.
Ooh.
And had had a lot of issues with people that she got along with really well and had formed friendships with, telling her that they did not find her physically attractive. And she was writing in about one specific relationship with a man who was a great friend to her and told her all the time how great she was and how she would be the perfect partner and so on. And she said, well, great. Why don't we just try dating? Yeah. And he said that he wasn't physically attracted to her because she was fat.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so
I'm remembering this now.
Yeah. So her question was, how do I start loving my body and how do I find a partner that does too?
Oh, okay.
Oh, God. Okay.
So
I know.
I'm nervous
Yeah.
about how
you
we
guys are
answer
always
this question,
so
honestly.
excited to do these, and then you get so anxious the second I start talking about.
Oh, yeah. The fact that there are 200 episodes of Sam and I fucking freestyling our thoughts on whatever
Stupid.
amount of sleep we got the night before
Honestly.
is just terrifying.
I probably was coming
that
from
being said,
work.
I have to remember. Yes, exactly. I love these episodes. I just remember it'll be fine, Sam. Okay, I'm ready.
Thank you for the reassurance.
I'm not going to pull ones where you guys, said anything too stupid. We'll let those.
That's true.
True.
That's true.
Yeah.
So Sierra, you said, "Dear men, why would you say all this bullshit?"
Okay, I stand by that.
Stand by it, 100%.
I stand by that because my first reaction to that part of the letter was like, man, people have just the biggest audacity. To like, who would, I just don't think I would ever say anything like that. Like, we don't need those. There are constructive opinions and then there are hurtful opinions. So yeah.
To have
Why
that
say
thought
that?
and then be like, I should say this out loud to
Yeah,
the person
to a
that I'm
friend.
thinking
This
it
is the
about.
thing I should say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Ugh.
just so
Yeah.
dumb.
It's bad enough to think that and then to be like, people should hear this. I should share this with folks.
Yeah, my
This
opinion
important
is
enough
valid.
to say out
in-
loud.
Yeah, for sure. She's probably interested in my opinion on her body. Yeah, definitely. I'll tell her that. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Spoiler, literally no one is ever interested in your opinion about their body.
Yeah.
You then spent the most of your time just being, the rest of your time just being so mad that you couldn't finish a sentence. That was most of your response. It was just
Cool.
starting a rant
That
and
sounds
then
right.
interrupting it with another layer of rant over
That's
and
Like
over.
a rant cake.
Honestly,
Yes.
that's my favorite Sierra, is when she's so mad she can't finish sentences because there's another thought that has made her so mad that she needs to go to that one next.
You were just interrupting yourself with new things that were making you progressively more mad.
What's upsetting is that sounds like my dad, so I need to go check myself right now. Okay, continue.
I've got a book for you.
And then you settled on one thing that she could do for herself is to have higher standards and set firmer boundaries for how the people around her are allowed to treat her.
Yes.
Because she deserves better. And
Yeah.
people who say these things to you are perhaps not your friends, or you could make friends that wouldn't say these things to you.
Yeah. Okay, I stand by that. Good job, Pat Sierra.
And Sam, you said we live in a fat-phobic society, that there's nothing wrong with being fat. This whole society and situation sucks. And the things that those men are saying to you suck. Many of us have internalized fat phobia, and your friends are treating you poorly. And I think you were adding on to Sierra's point about sort of setting harder boundaries. And you said something along the lines of like, loving yourself more deeply will help you hold others to a higher standard or hold your boundaries more firmly as well.
Pretty good, Sam.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. All right. I feel like I made the problem hers, but that's okay. It's not hers.
I maybe didn't summarize it terribly accurately then, because that was not the takeaway that I had.
Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, good. All right.
It was like 90% like this situation sucks because of a variety of systemic things.
Yep.
And then also, so I don't just tell you that the situation sucks and it will forever suck. Here's like maybe a thing you could do.
Yeah, got it. Okay, that sounds more. Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds like something I would definitely say.
Seems like that sounds more like me.
Yeah.
All right, so here's Amalia's update from 3.5 years later.
Hi, my name is Amalia, and I wrote in on episode 39. I talked about being a fat person who had been told recently the person I was talking to loved everything about me but wasn't physically attracted to me. And it happened one too many times when I wrote in, and Sam and Sierra affirmed me and went on an impassioned rant about fat phobia in society, but in the end asked me to set better boundaries around the way that I let my friends and potential romantic partners treat me and my body. And I would love to tell you that I took all that to heart immediately and worked on it, but the road to loving your body is a long and winding one, and quite honestly, one that I'm still on and fumble and fall on often. I spent a good amount of time pursuing a friend, doing all the girlfriend things and being in a pseudo relationship just for him to tell me it never had been or would be romantic because he wasn't attracted to me. He acknowledged liking the attention and all the things I did for him, but I knew in my heart of hearts things would be different if I was thin. So with Sam and Sierra's advice in my head from almost 2 years ago, I hopped on Bumble and soon I met someone new. Our dates were amazing and he made me laugh like no other and we could talk about pretty much anything. He found me super attractive and told me so often. But more accurately, he tells me so often because we soon became official and I have a boyfriend who tells me every day how beautiful I am and how hot and sexy he thinks I am and whose intentions and feelings I never have to doubt. And I feel so comfortable around him and in my own body, and that's the way that a partner should make you feel. I'm learning every day to like myself and who I am. And I know that writing in to just break up the affirmations, the advice, and the recommendation for the book, The Body Is Not an Apology, which was incredible, really started it all. And so I'm forever grateful for that. And I'm sending all my love and just reminding you and anyone else that your body is a good body and it deserves love and kindness, not only from you, but from the people in your life. And so I hope that we can all find that and give that to the people around us. Much love.
Wow.
Amazing.
I forgot what these episodes feel like. I was like immediately crying. What immediately well, first of all, congratulations on this wonderful love that you found. And more importantly, congratulations for continuing along this journey of self-love and acceptance. But in listening to you, I'm just so thank you for writing in and sharing this update, because I think it's so powerful to hear the physicalization of our well metaphor, right? Like that you're working too hard and that there's not water here, and there's a love out here that won't make you work so hard. There's a love out here that's going to love your body and like celebrate you and tell you you're sexy every day. And I just loved hearing that in action, hearing that these people who give us crumbs aren't worth it, and that there's a whole meal out there ready to fill us with love, affirmation, and security. And I'm so grateful that you wrote in. Thank you.
Yeah. And I really appreciated what you said about how you heard what we said and then struggled to internalize it or struggled to listen to it or struggled to believe it. Cause that's so real. That experience of being to podcast hosts or our friends or, other people telling us things about how beautiful we are or how lovable we are, and like really struggling to internalize it. And it just speaks to the fact that this type of love and support is really about, or this sort of journey towards radical self-love and self-acceptance is a journey, right? Like, I don't know that there's ever an end point where we suddenly like flip a switch and like, it's like, oh yes, absolutely. I love my body and I love everything about myself and like all of that stuff. But instead just hearing those words and then finding ways to act on them in a meaningful way. And sometimes that's like, who knows what the thing is, right? Like, it could be like, oh, this person just said it in this one way. And now suddenly I'm like, wait a minute, there are things I can do or things I can try. And sometimes it's like, no, I have to find the right relationship to figure out ways that I can be in my body in different ways. And like, all of those journeys are beautiful and wonderful. And I think it's great that you are honest and vulnerable with us to say like, yeah, I heard it. And then it really took me a long time to figure out how to actually act on it. Cause that is so real. And so human to sort of be on that journey.
Yeah. And thank you so much for the kind things you said about the podcast and about our community and our listeners, and the very, very true and impactful and important message that you sent out to us and all of our wonderful JBU community members. I hope that Sam and I and our fellow listeners will take that to heart. Thank you.
Absolutely.
We love you.
Yeah. Thank you for calling.
All right. Next up, we have Natalie, who wrote in on episode 80, titled Boundaries First.
Okay.
Which originally ran on February 9th of 2020.
Oh, man.
And
that was a tough time.
It was right before the storm.
Yeah, it was actually a great time.
We went to Brooklyn. It was fun.
You're right, Mariah. It was a great time.
We were probably all at your house.
Yay.
Right around that day.
For sure.
Okay. And she wrote about how as a teenager, she always wanted to be in a serious relationship and never was. And got into her first real relationship in college, which was great and lasted for about 2 years and gave her a ton of confidence and security.
Okay.
But they broke up after college, and she's moved back home and is wanting to date casually, but not sure how to communicate that she doesn't necessarily want a long-term serious relationship, that she's just looking to casually date and hook up. And is feeling guilt around wanting something different from a lot of the people that she's meeting, and feeling like she's potentially leading people on by wanting to date, but not wanting to necessarily get into a long-term relationship.
Yes, I think I remember this.
So you both talked for a while about what's the deal with being attracted to unavailable people. Which is like,
that seems a little tangential.
Fair question. Well, I think it was in the context of, even if you communicate very clearly, like, hey, this is not what I'm looking for.
Yep.
People may come to you looking for that thing that you've explicitly said you are not interested in.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's a challenge, or because, we always want what we can't have.
Yep.
Sierra, you then said that there's obviously nothing wrong with wanting and seeking out casual relationships or hookups or casual sex, that you just need to be honest and clear with yourself and your partners about what you want and what you're looking for. She also, in the letter, I forget how she phrased it exactly, but wrote something about struggling with being able to distinguish between flattery and genuine interest from people that she meets. And you both had some thoughts about that. Sierra, you said, quote, "If I knew the difference, I'd still be a virgin."
Turns out I am funny.
And that it's also okay to follow flattery and see where that takes you, and do things that make you feel good, and spend time with people that make you feel good. That's not necessarily, there's not necessarily anything wrong with
I like
that.
Agree with that.
Good job,
yeah,
me.
that's great.
Sam, you said society has rules about what relationships are supposed to look like, especially for women, and it can be hard to navigate spaces outside of that. Like we're not taught, the language for that oftentimes. Yep. And then you had some thoughts about how if you are not looking for a relationship or if you don't want to be in a relationship, then that means that you have to draw hard boundaries about not getting those relationship things.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So as to not get yourself into a situation where, you're not dating, but you talk every day and you're not dating other people and you're spending all of your time together and et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
And then had some thoughts about, I think she said something in her letter too about, struggling to build new platonic relationships.
Yeah, for sure.
That's real.
And you had some thoughts about how it's often easier to create like an immediate sense of intimacy in romantic relationships through sex or physical connection.
Yeah.
And it takes longer to build that same level or a deeper or different type of intimacy through platonic relationships.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so
accurate, Sam. Good job.
It takes time and it takes practice, and it'll get easier the more you do it, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
So here is Natalie's update from 2-ish years later.
Hi, Sam and Sierra and Spencer. My name is Natalie. You guys answered my letter on episode 80, where I had written in about feeling guilty about seeking out casual sex and casual dating relationships, knowing that other people might be looking for more commitment than I was. I think listening back to the letter, I don't know if I was being truthful with you guys and with myself when I wrote it. I think that at the time I had been seeing somebody casually who I knew wanted a relationship with me. And before you guys ever answered my letter, we did end up breaking things off. And actually, very shortly after that, I reconnected with somebody I had met previously and dated really briefly. And we actually started a long-distance relationship. We've been together for about a little over 2 years now, and actually we've been living together for the last 6 months. And things are going really, really well. So that had happened right around the time you guys answered my letter, so I never got to take your advice, but I really appreciated all of your reflections, and I think it really helped shift my perspective and relieve some of my guilt while also giving me a bit of a reality check. So thank you.
Aw, that's great. I was just deeply moved by like our listeners' vulnerability, even just like calling in and being like, I don't think I was being honest with myself. That is relatable.
Absolutely. 100%.
Do you ever like read back your journal or something like that? Or I don't know, like a post online and be like, that is not the whole truth, Demolder.
For sure. Oh, for sure. And I think that there's like, I've had experiences where I'm like breaking things off with people, where I'm like, I just don't want to be dating right now. But like, if that's not true, I just don't want to be dating that person. But like in my head, it feels like that's like the truth.
Everyone's worst nightmare, but also like deeply true. Yeah.
Right?
If you've convinced yourself of it, you're not lying.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I've just convinced myself so much that I'm not lying. Absolutely. Yeah, so that's that. I love the idea of like, I even wrote into this advice podcast with advice, asking for advice that didn't actually apply to me because it wasn't actually the truth of my situation.
Yeah.
And also just how relatable that is.
Yeah, but I also think it's like a powerful example of like guilt, that we're not really well practiced in talking about our own needs and boundaries, especially when they're in opposition of the popular mode, which is often monogamy, which, long-term relationships, not crushing people's hearts. It's hard to go against that. And I mean, we wouldn't have a show for 4 years if it was easy to break up with people or if it was easy to like navigate the relationship seas, I don't think that anything we do interpersonally is ever easy. It's just like hard earned and vulnerable.
Absolutely.
All right, my darling.
You also probably wouldn't have a show if we just didn't all feel guilty about everything that we do all the time.
Yeah,
that's exactly it.
Thanks for your guilt, everyone, because it's really helping us out.
That is so funny. All right, my darling. Thank you so much for writing and updating us and calling. We love you.
Thank you so much. Glad our advice was useless to you.
Glad you figured it out on your own first.
As you all have the capacity to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
When you tell people that they know what to do, she just beat you to it.
Yeah, exactly.
We do tell people that all the time. It's like,
Yeah.
And they're like, no, I don't. That's why we're writing in. And I'm like, no, it's fine. Just trust yourself.
All right. Next up, we have Faking It from episode 139, the Sierra Sear.
The Sierra what?
Which ran Sear.
Oh, Sear. Like it was grocery shopping.
Cook something quickly. Yes. It originally ran on April 26th of 2021. And this person was writing in about how they'd been with their boyfriend for about 6 months and everything was going pretty well. And she had experienced some sexual trauma as a teenager that has affected her sex life in adulthood. And sex traditionally had not been very enjoyable for her and felt sort of more like somewhere between a performance and an obligation in relationships in the past. But now after a lot of work and some time passing, she's had a few positive sexual experiences with both men and women. But they had not been previously had not been in the context of a committed relationship.
Sure.
And she's now in this long-term trusting relationship with her boyfriend. They both have a pretty high sex drive. And when they first started having sex together, her boyfriend noticed and said something to her about how she seemed to be performing during sex and didn't feel like she was like fully present with him in the moment. And they had a conversation about sort of where that comes from for her and her past experiences. And her boyfriend was kind and understanding. And since then they've had lots of great sex together. But she, somewhere in one of these conversations, told her that she had not and didn't think she could orgasm from sex. And he seemed to take that as sort of a challenge. And she eventually started feeling guilty about not orgasming. Despite his best efforts.
It's like a sitcom.
Oh my God.
Right. I'm telling you, after I'm still watching 90s sitcoms, I think like
you mean rom-coms?
95%. Sorry. Yes. Rom-coms. 95% of like our generation's relationship issues can be stem from like repeating things we've seen in rom-coms.
Yeah, definitely.
I 100% agree with you. Sleepless in Seattle really fucked me up.
I watched. Sorry, this is not. Back to your rather serious letter. She eventually started feeling guilty about not orgasming and started faking orgasms. And now is feeling guilty about that, and because it feels like she's lying to or deceiving her partner, and she doesn't want to be doing that.
Yeah.
She cares a lot about him and wants to build this relationship with him. But she's not sure what to do.
I cannot wait to hear what the fuck we said.
Who knows?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. We'll go with Sam first. Sam, you said that she's obviously not a bad person and that she's just doing what she needed to do in the moment. Yeah. And it's also hard to separate this situation from misogyny and patriarchy and this concept that like women are supposed to perform for men and that it's about, men's pleasure and women like achieving all this goal oriented bullshit. And then you said it's not necessarily the big betrayal that it's built up to be
Yes.
either. Like lots of parts of sex are or can be performative, and that's not necessarily
Yes.
a bad thing. Sierra, you said that agreed that she's definitely not a bad person and that none of us are taught how to do any of this, be it relationships or communication or sex or whatever, and that it's all very complicated and nuanced, and that she's doing the best she can to love her partner. And you talked a bit about how like her intentions are clearly very good here, but also maybe there's a more vulnerable choice to be made that would actually strengthen her relationship even more.
I love this because I was immediately like, what the fuck did I say? And then I sat with it and I was thinking like, well, if I was writing in with a letter like that, and I could, because I've had similar anxieties or narratives in my life about sex and performance, the most powerful thing I think would be to relieve me of my guilt that I'm not a bad person for doing these things. That instead it is my way of loving that person and trying to cater to them to make them happy. But it's a broken way of loving somebody because it's a way of like suppressing your true self. It's how many of us were taught to love, for fuck's sake, you know? So I love that because at first I was like, Sierra, that's a little weak sauce. And now I think it's great. Good job, me.
Yeah, the underlying like motivation here is to be good to her partner.
Right.
But there maybe is like a way to do it that's healthier for her. Too.
I hope that I communicated, or at least I can now, that like loving your partner is a great thing to do, but you are not like unlovable as you are. You know what I mean? Like, and your love is good enough as you are. Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, go ahead, continue.
And then along those lines, you said that like a lot of our heartache is actually not because of the thing in the relationship that we're struggling with. It's because we're so hard on ourselves about that thing.
That's real. Absolutely.
Yeah. Who the fuck are we, Sam?
Well, this was episode 139.
Yeah, I was like,
you're
we're
well
in the
practiced
zone now.
by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, this advice feels right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then you both said that ultimately, you know, she should probably have this hard, vulnerable conversation with her partner, and then gave her some reassurances about like penetrative sex is not the end all be all, and there are a million different ways to have sex, and a lot of what we traditionally think of is somehow rooted in misogyny, homophobia, or transphobia, and that this is not at all an uncommon situation, and she shouldn't feel bad for experiencing it, or like shouldn't be scared of this conversation around it.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm finding a theme that I apparently always take everything to the systemic level. I'm like, your situation is actually endemic to a larger situation that we're going through, and they inform each other, which is good. I'm glad I do it.
Intersectional. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's just like
Personal.
all three of these are like, Sam, you took it to the systemic level. And I'm like, okay, here we are again.
So you thought things were just like locally bad. They're actually globally and historically bad. It's actually been bad forever, everywhere.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's perfect.
All right. So here is Faking It's update.
Hi, guys. My name is Ash. I submitted a letter on episode 139, the Sierra Fear. I believe my name was Faking It. I was the one who was struggling because my partner had been kind of pressuring me to orgasm during sex, and so I began faking my orgasms because I didn't feel like I could come from penetrative sex, and my partner was really putting that pressure on me to come that way. And instead of just kind of sticking up for myself and being like, hey, this is not how my body works, I just started faking it. That episode honestly like really opened my eyes to what a red flag that was in my relationship, that I actually didn't feel like I could take your advice, because I didn't really feel like that relationship was a safe space to do that in. That relationship definitely ended. Luckily, a few months later, it ended up being really manipulative and toxic. I later found out through therapy that my partner was a narcissist and had attempted to be really love bombing, and then was trying to flip the switch and using my trauma against me to try to control me. But I think that because of your guys' podcast and listening to that, I really have learned a lot in sticking up for myself and setting those boundaries. And honestly, I don't think a year ago, if I had been in that relationship, I would have been able to stick up for myself and leave. I have a very anxious attachment style, and I think I would have rather have done a bunch of mental gymnastics to stay in the relationship than leave. But I think just like having your guys' podcast community of support made me realize it's not scary to be on my own, and I can find respectful love. And the current partner that I'm with, I'm super happy with. One of our first conversations was about my relationship with sex, and I told them right off the bat about like my history with my ex and the history before that, and I felt so comfortable and safe having that conversation, and just having the safety of like actually having someone that could respond to that in a healthy way made me realize like how unhealthy that relationship was and how happy I am that I was able to get out of it. Even my therapist said, you know, a lot of people stay in those relationships for like years and years. So I don't think I would have gotten out of that relationship as quickly if you guys hadn't given me that advice and I hadn't realized that I deserve to have a safe space to be honest, and I deserve to have someone respect my body and to trust me when I say that I know my body and I know what works for me and what doesn't, and to be respectful of my choices in all matters. So thank you guys so much for your advice and helping me, and just want to let you know that I am just really happy now. I'm really glad to be implementing the advice you have in like a new healthy relationship, and I guess I just throw in I'm having great, happy good sex now. I'm actually really enjoying it, and I don't really feel like I have the need to fake my orgasms anymore. I feel like I can be authentic and just be real, and I really trust my partner, and they've been really good for me, and I'm just really happy. And Sierra, congrats on birthing the baby. I am so jealous.
Oh my God, you're so cute.
Love you guys. Thank you guys so much for your advice.
That is
I thought she was jealous of you for having a baby, but turns out she was jealous of Temple for getting you as a mom. It's cute.
Oh my God,
I love it.
I love that. That is so charming. Wow, there's a lot of feelings. I was going to say something totally different, so it kind of threw me off. But wow, that is so cute. Thank you. Thank you for calling in and for those lovely words. First of all, I just want to say the thing so I don't forget it. Hearing that letter writer use the phrase mental gymnastics, which I'm sure I did not make up, but I use regularly to like talk about what the fuck we do to justify things, was like so, again, it was like bringing, you know, podcasting is such like a void, right? We are letter writers writing from the void, but it's, you know, we know that there's a community of you all out there that are like real human beings. But it's just so amazing to like hear your voices and hear the actualizations of this podcast out there in the world, like that phrase being used by somebody else. It was so charming, you know? Yeah.
People actually listen to our podcast, turns out. Yeah, and I just really love the idea of us sort of like helping give you a script and you realizing that like that script's not going to work, and the fact that it's not going to work is like kind of alarming to me. And then being able to use it again with a different partner who was much more accepting and you felt much safer with. And I think it speaks to the fact that like this is forever work that we're doing, right? Like this head and heart work isn't just like, cool, I've got the script and now the problem's solved. It's like, cool, I have something I could maybe use, and it feels like this isn't working here, but maybe it'll work over here. Or like maybe the fact that this isn't working should be a cause of concern for me, that this person isn't seeing me or hearing me. And like, it gives me like, honestly, it's a little reassuring for me to say like, even if the advice that we give folks like isn't actually appropriate or helpful to them in that moment in the way that we might think it is, Like
Yes.
just even the practice of talking about what it feels like or what it could look like to have these types of conversations and relationships with each other. And that sort of like coming to something is like really, really helpful. Cause sometimes I'm like, oh, we give the people the script, but like, what if that doesn't work for them? Or like, what if that's not like the right thing? But the idea of like the sort of cumulative work of talking about this stuff and the way that we talk about it,
yes,
and the way that you all talk about it with us and like in the Facebook group and all of that, like is about sort of a bigger, taking it to the systemic level again. It's about like a bigger change that's happening rather than saying like in my unique circumstance in this moment, I need the script, but instead like, how are we changing the way that we're thinking about how we engage in relationships and how we talk to each other? That's going to be applicable to all sorts of different places where we might need to have difficult conversations with people.
Yeah, and I'm getting a little sidetracked from this letter, but that is such a great thing to point out and a great perspective shift, Sam, that like this script isn't meant to perfectly fix this one problem, because that one problem is also very versatile and nuanced and complicated. And sometimes you bring one shape to a hole and it's a totally different shape, blocks, cubes, things. And that I love that perspective because it just gives us another reason to be gentle on ourselves, right? Like we might have the perfect tools and the problem that approaches us in this season of our life doesn't require any of those tools. So now we got to go get new ones. You know what I mean? Like there's so many mitigating circumstances that lead to our struggle, right? To lead to our mistakes or to our guilt or whatever. And it's just such a great reminder that, it's all cumulative. I love that word in terms of head and heart work. And to our darling letter writer, you sound lighter. You sound, I didn't hear your voice before, but like your voice sounds light. And I'm so proud of you for doing the work that you have been doing, and fostering a safe place within yourself that you could extend to your relationships.
Absolutely. This is great. I love these episodes. Sorry we were so weird at the beginning, Spence.
I know, I like never.
I knew we'd get there. It's fine. I knew what was coming up, so I knew we'd be okay.
These are cry fests for me.
We should just trust you always, Spencer.
I do. We do.
Like honestly, we do.
Fortunately or unfortunately, you have to every week. So.
True. Very true.
All right. Last up for this episode is Jess, who wrote in letter 3 of episode 184, the toxic positivity villain.
Yes. It's a Halloween costume where he's like,
March.
It's not so bad. Look on the bright side. Chin up.
Yes, exactly. This ran March 21st of this year, 2022. And Jess had recently broken up with her partner of about 3 years and was looking for a deeper emotional connection. She just didn't feel like she was connecting emotionally on the level that she wanted to with her partner. But after breaking up, she had a lot of guilt, or was feeling a lot of guilt about how she ended things and how she treated her partner while they were dating, and is now having a hard time feeling worthy of love in a new relationship because she's still feeling guilty about how she treated her previous partner. So her question was, how do I forgive myself and start loving myself again?
Oh.
All right, Sam, you said that unhealthy relationships can actually limit our ability to do the things that we want to do. And just because she wasn't able to connect emotionally with her previous partner doesn't mean that she won't be able to do so with future partners. And also that just because this breakup or this relationship was painful for her partner doesn't necessarily mean that she did anything wrong. That like relationships just involve pain sometimes, and breakups always do.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that someone did something wrong or was trying to hurt the other person.
That is very, very profound, Sam.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Sierra, you suggested a sort of reframing of the quote goal of relationships, and that it's not necessarily to make it work or to be together forever. That the goal of relationships can be or is to explore the potential of a partnership and see where it goes, and that more often than not, that means that you break up.
We
eventually.
are definitely in the 4th year.
Oh,
Because Sam and
absolutely.
Sam and
This
I
is
are like, just go with the flow.
This is like we've given all the like literal practical advice we
now
can.
we're
For
just
sure.
like, let me shift your cosmic perspective on this.
Now it's like, well, let's define the word relationship.
Right?
Yeah,
What does it actually mean?
What does
Webster's
emotional
dictionary
connection look like
says-
to you? You know, because it's going to look different
just
for
asking-
all of us.
You're just asking questions back to the people who can't respond.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. The void.
And you said it sounds like she did that in terms of exploring the potential of this partnership to the best of her ability.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And that's nothing to feel guilt over or to punish yourself for. That's just the way relationships.
The way the
Usually
cookie
go.
crumbles.
That's right.
Yeah. You also said something that I really like, which is we don't go into new relationships thinking, quote, I hope this teaches me a painful life lesson. But that's the way it usually goes.
Geez. I hope this crushes me like a
Yeah.
tiny bug.
Right. But it might.
Yeah.
And it could also like that can be ultimately okay and good.
You know what's amazing? Just really quickly. This is like our most recent letter, and I remember the least about it.
Same.
But maybe that's
this
because
was
I
like
had a
3
baby.
months
What's
ago.
your excuse, Sam?
Who knows?
Yeah.
This was like 2 weeks pre-temple, so you were just
Oh, full
throwing
of
shit out
fluids.
there. And
Yeah. And this
Yeah.
is like also when we were recording like lots of
Yes.
episodes in a
Yeah,
row
yeah,
and also
yeah.
dealing with our own drama.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
keeping our fingers crossed that Temple wasn't born during an episode at some point.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. You were saying.
Oh, and then lastly, you asked her to consider all the things that she did, quote, right in
Yes.
this relationship, and
I like
to
that.
not throw all that away just because they end up breaking up ultimately.
Yeah, we're so
And that
so
there are
quick
things
to
from this
punish
relation-
ourselves.
For sure.
Well, and that there are positive things from this relationship that she could carry into her next
Yes.
relationship.
For sure.
You know, because she's very worried about like, I don't feel equipped to be in another relationship with someone because I did these things that I don't feel good about.
Yes.
Ignoring the thousands of things that she did well
Yes.
and like would help her in a new relationship.
Yeah.
And also like fucking up is part of learning. So like
Right.
we learn not to do things by doing them once or twice or 10 times or 100
Yes.
times and being like, oh, that's not working. I need to try something different. And like that's part of the joy and pain of learning as we go.
Sucking at something is the first step to being kind of okay at something.
That's right.
Oh my God. I'm going to
I hate
fucking
that, though.
crochet that shit.
That's
I'm going to
it's
make
an
a
Adventure
cross
Time
stitch
quote,
of that
but
quote for you
I
for
can't take credit for
Christmas.
that.
If I'm not immediately
do.
perfect at it, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's
And then you both had a conversation about the differences between guilt and shame.
Yes.
And
Sure.
the difference between I feel bad versus I am bad inherently.
Yep.
For me, there is no
right.
difference.
Yeah.
Well,
I wish that was a
Brene
joke.
Brown says
Fuck.
differently.
All right.
All right, so here's our update from Jess.
Hi, Sam, Sierra, and Spencer. I wrote in to you guys a few months back, and you guys read my letter on episode 184. And the letter was from an ocean of emotions. My name is Jess, and I just wanted to give you guys an update. My letter was basically about my partner and I at the time had been dating for 3 years, and we were going through a breakup via my choice. And I had a lot of guilt that I was experiencing from mistakes that I had made in the relationship. And I felt like a lot of it was incompatibility between me and my partner, but also, again, just like mistakes that I had made. And so the guilt that I was feeling was very overwhelming. And a lot of days I couldn't focus on my work or school or whatever else I had going on. And I was just, well, hence the letter name, drowning in an ocean of emotions. So you guys had read the letter on your podcast about 2 months
after I had written it. And at that point, my partner and I had already broken up. I had actually moved out of our apartment and was living alone. And since then, it's been about close to 6 months after our breakup. And we are still friends, actually. We still talk and we still hang out and see each other as friends. But we're both aware that we are seeing other people and we're both dating other people, but we're still able to be friends and have that relationship with each other and possibly explore something in the future with one another if it gets to that point. But living alone is lonely. But I am growing a lot as a person and as an individual, which is exactly what I wanted outside of this relationship, and the reason for the breakup. So I did take you guys' advice, and it was very much appreciated. And I am no longer feeling guilty, and I'm no longer feeling ashamed, and I've accepted the mistakes, and I'm learning from them, and I'm in therapy still, so everything's working out very well. So I appreciate you guys' advice, and love you guys so much.
Oh, we love you too. Yeah, living alone is lonely. Sorry, that's just an agreement I wanted to say. It's deeply lonely. We are humans of, we're mammals. We're pack animals. we need connection,
Yes.
That's not true. We're not pack animals, but sometimes it is like that.
Social animals.
Kind of.
But I just wanted to affirm that it is lonely, but I'm so glad that you're leaning into that new discomfort that you knew your soul needed. Like, I think we said in the last couple episodes at some point, like, we can do hard things even when they hurt us. Even we can do the right thing for ourselves, even when it's the uncomfortable thing. And it sounds like you're putting yourself in that discomfort, while also doing the thing that we want all of our listeners to do, which is being gentle with yourself.
Absolutely. And it's great that your relationship has shifted and adapted to become more of a friendship. And I think it just speaks to the idea that our relationships can adapt and change if we need them to, or if we want them to. And that, like, even the hurt and the pain that you caused him through this breakup doesn't mean that you can't find a place to continue to figure out what it means to be friends. And like, I think it speaks to the idea of, like, we are often harder on ourselves than other people are on us, right? Where we're like, oh my God, I've hurt this person. And they can possibly put it into a different perspective when we can't necessarily, because we're sort of telling ourselves stories about what it means about us, or that somehow we're bad people for causing other people harm. But it sounds like you both are figuring it out, and that's great. And that's all we can do in any given moment is just continue to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear from you, and we're proud of you. This is it's not easy to be in any of these letter writers' shoes, and it's not easy to be kind to ourselves when we've been taught that is not the path, right? And we're proud of you for doing the work alongside of us. Yeah, that's right. It sounded wrong. Alongside us. There we go. There we go. Alongside us. We are in the trenches with you, as they say. So thanks so much for the update. We love you terribly.
We love you. Thank you so much for calling.
All right, y'all.
That's it.
Yeah, 4 years.
Happy 5th birthday.
Yay.
Yeah, I guess we're technically 4, because we would start out at 0.
Yeah, we're entering our
Happy
5th year.
4th birthday.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know how kids
I'll
work.
have a baby.
Yeah, I'll let you guys
Can't
know.
count to 5.
But it is our baby. So cheers to our wonderful Just Break Up community. Cheers to my wonderful partners in Head and Heart Work, Spencer and Sam. To our listeners, you make this totally happen. Well, technically we do, but you sustain us. You make this all possible because you're here. I want to take a moment to have a throwback to Sam's original goal for this podcast, which was to have 100 listeners. And now we have many more than that. We have doubled that in episodes, and our podcast has been downloaded over 4 million times at this point in time. I know, which is just a number that is unfathomable to me. And it is all because of you all, because you most likely Googled breakup podcast because you were hurting. And the fact that we find you during that time and you find any sort of semblance of comfort from us, and most importantly, that you stick around, whether you listen to us for a week or a couple months or a couple years or the whole shebang. We're just so grateful and really, really touched by your listening.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hard to express how thankful both Sierra and I are for you all for listening. Because we make this podcast, but it would be nothing if there weren't people to listen to it. And also the way that you all love and support each other in all of the different places and ways that you do is just incredible. So thank you all for listening to us for 4 years or for 4 days, whatever the case may be. We're just really appreciative of you being willing to go on this journey with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And if all else fails,
just break up.